We'll always have the segment of farm area, but even then, when is that recording?
I'm telling you. There. Oh, I can see the Reverend Wilkie on there, so it's probably ready for us to start. Unless there's any objections to us getting started, Council, we welcome everybody to our first meeting in 2021. So how exciting. So let's go ahead and get started we have Reverend Wilkie on Zoom, and if we would like to turn it over to him for our invocation. We don't have any sound yet, Reverend. Go ahead and try again. Maybe we need to turn his mic on.
Okay, now you can.
Yeah, we got it.
Let us pray. Lord God, for this glorious day to be in your presence, give us guidance in the leaving of Mayor Pike for a new job. So now we're under a pro tem leadership. Give to each council a right choice for the decisions to be given. Be with the pro tem leadership this day for their search for a new mayor for our city leadership. We pray that the council will make a right choice for the rest of the term of Mayor Pike that he had left to serve. Now give us all a great final day and a great day for our city. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Wilkie. I've asked Councilman Brian Smethurst to lead us in the pledge. Thank you, Brian. Okay, so just before we get too far down the road here, just in case some of you are wondering, I'll just make sure everybody's on the same page. I'm Jimmy Hughes. Obviously, I'll just be acting as Mayor Pro Tem for the next couple weeks until we have our meeting on the 19th. We are receiving applications for the mayor's position. So we'll be doing that on our meeting on the 19th. You have until Monday at 5 o'clock to submit your application if you want to do that. So we're going to get through this. We would like to excuse Councilwoman Michelle Randall. She was going to try to get on via Zoom, and it may or may not be possible for her. So if we don't see her, we'll excuse her for good reasons. So, okay, at the first of every meeting every month, Mayor Pike had instituted a public comment period. I think we're just going to continue that. There are some sheets over there if you want to make public comment. We do require one of those filled out. So I haven't gotten any. If there are any, do you have any, Christina? Okay, so I haven't got any of those. Is anybody here to make comment on something that's not on the agenda? Nothing on Zoom? Good. Okay. Other than that, we have no other pre-agenda items, Christina or Adam, that you're aware of? Okay, if not, then all of you have the agenda. Anything, Adam, on the agenda that we need to change or remove or anything?
No changes from the written agenda.
Okay, perfect. So, Adam, do you want to kind of take us through anything on the consent calendar?
Yeah, let's do it. So you see the items that are listed there. I would mention a number of these items do require the expenditure of funds. With the exception of the first two, all are currently budgeted. Those first two, there is a note that in order to get the NRCS funding, that's some of our storm drain funding, flooding type prevention, we will be coming back with a budget opening later. But we want to take advantage of the grant. You'll notice that item A, there's a significant grant from NRCS. We want to be able to take advantage of that. So there is a city match. We're going to move some of our storm drain funds around to be able to count that match. And that'll be a great project for that part of town as far as flood control goes. Everything else is currently in the budget, and staff would recommend approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Is there anything, council, on the consent calendar that you want to discuss further or pull out that you have a question on?
I just wanted to make a comment, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Item C, the Fossil Falls Park, and item D, the 1450 East to 900 South to Riverside Drive. Those are I just wanted to comment on how fantastic it is that we're getting those done. That park is going to be really well used. And that connectivity on 1450 East, it basically will connect us up to the hospital. And that's going to be a huge trail connection to be able to get from the south block up to, downtown. So just wanted to comment for the public who may not have read this, that those are big connections coming, and we're really excited to see those happen.
That's funny, Danielle. I wanted to make that exact same comment. It's really exciting, this park and that trail system. It's awesome.
Very good. Thank you both. We actually did talk about that a little bit, our trail connectivity in our budget planning meeting, so thank you. Anything else? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
So we have a motion by Danielle, a second by Greg. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Now, did we clarify I'm assuming.
Sean, we believe the Mayor Pro Tem votes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I've assumed that, so you know what assumption does. Okay. Okay. Item number 3. This is are we okay? Time-wise, are we okay for public hearing? Yeah?
Yep.
5 o'clock?
Let's
Go
do it.
ahead, Wes.
Let me see if I can see it.
So item 3 is a request for a public hearing and consideration of amended final subdivision plat for the Cliffs of Snow Canyon, Plat J, lots 158 and 159 amended. Basically, it's these two lots right here in the Cliffs of Snow Canyon, which you know is up kind of on the area right there adjacent to Ivan City. Anyway, it's to merge these two lots together into one lot and then vacate the public utility easements right there along the existing lot line. Basically, that's it.
Pretty straightforward. Any questions for staff? This is a public hearing, so if there's no questions for Wes, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing for anyone that's here to speak to this item. Nobody? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, council, and come back to you for your action.
I'll make a motion we approve the amended final plat subdivision for the Cliffs at Snow Canyon, Plot J, lots 158 and 159.
Perfect.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Greg and a second by Danielle. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Christina, you are, if Michelle does happen to come on, will you just let us know? Okay. Okay, item number 4.
Council, for item number 4, we've had a number of conversations recently about this topic. We've discussed quite a bit what the appropriate number of bar establishment licenses should be for the downtown arts district overlay. So staff has drafted documents that would set that number at 2. We believe that was reflective of what the direction had been from the council. And so that's before you tonight. I would note 2 things. Since there are currently more than 2 licenses that have been issued, all 4 would be considered grandfathered unless, of course, they discontinued the use of that license. And then there is also another provision that was drafted in there to say that if one of these licenses is issued and then it's not acted upon by the licensee for 6 months, that they would lose that license. It would come back into the pool. The intent would be for them to be in use. So that's the way that the documents have been drafted. If you've got any questions, either myself or Sean can answer those for you. So happy to do so.
I think this is a great direction to go, and I think you know, we did feel like this might I think we didn't think it would come to 4 of them anyway, but I think this is a good direction for us to go in that area. So,
Adam, I think there's 2 things that are important to point out. One is that this is just for the arts district, so it's like it's a small space, and you know, I think just for public knowledge, it's important to point out that we are not trying to manipulate the free market with this move. We are just trying to create a balanced atmosphere in a very small space. But that we recognize that, you know, like I don't eat ice cream, but it wouldn't be my right to say, you know, because I don't eat ice cream that we shouldn't have so many ice cream joints. And I know there's been some, you know, discussion on the local level about that and whether or not we're trying to control the free market. So I just wanted to make a statement about that, you know, that we recognize that would not be within our right and we would not wish to do that.
thank you, Danielle. That was well.
Water's for fighting, whiskey's for drinking, right? Thank you for that. I think this is kind of along the intentions of what you were going for, Brian, when we made this motion, when we talked about this last time. So if there's no other discussion, I'm ready for a motion.
If I can read it and find it. I make a motion to approve the ordinance amending 3-3-3A6 of the city code to change the number of bar establishments licenses permitted in the arts district overlay zone.
I'll second that.
Do we need to say the number?
Yes, if you could say the number, I just noticed that in the packet, it seems to have been omitted, so that's why.
From 4 to 2 bars in the arts district overlay area.
Second stands.
Okay, thanks. So we have a motion made by Brian and a second made by Danielle. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, this is an ordinance. We have to have a roll call, so all in favor, starting with Greg.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, number 5.
All right. This is, number 5 is an application to consider approval of an ordinance which would change the zone from R110, which is a single-family residential designation, to M1 manufacturing on approximately 123 acres, generally located west of River Road and south of Enterprise Drive. So this is part of Fort Pierce development, Phase 8. Fort Pierce has been developed over the years. Okay, thank you. And you can see the area outlined in blue there. So the bulk of it is zoned R110. Like I said, there is this little piece that is, it's a couple of little pieces that follow the roads that are zoned M1 currently. Let's look at the general plan, though. Again, the bulk of it is business park or business research park. But there are a couple of little pieces over here on the west side that are master planned for residential and open space. But those areas, again, they're just on the periphery, and the bulk of it is in the business park designation. So, again, this is just to look at the legal description of where that would be changed to the M1 zone. So the Planning Commission heard this and has recommended approval unanimously. If there are any questions for me, I'm happy to answer those.
Perfect. You guys kind of all understand where we're at here and what's going on. I think the applicant's on Zoom as well, so if you have questions for the applicant. All good?
Dan, have we discussed with the applicant future trails in that area? It does appear to overlap some spots that might tie into some trails on Sitla property that's to the west. Obviously, this is the general plan stage, this is the zone change, but I think that's something we'd want to make sure that we're addressing.
Yeah, we haven't had those specific discussions yet, but yeah, that's definitely something that we'll make sure that we talk to them about.
Go ahead.
I can make a general comment on this. So during my day job is to help bring in new businesses into southern Utah. One thing that is hard to find, starting to become hard to find in southern Utah, is places to put them, especially large manufacturing, which is what Fort Pierce or that area has been designated for. So I think this is something that is definitely necessary and very good for our community, and we'll definitely find good manufacturers or other companies with high-paying jobs to come and fill that space. So I'm glad to see the change being made.
Thank you, Greg. Any other discussion? Questions? Concerns? I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the ordinance changing the zone from R110 to M1 on approximately 123.13 acres in Fort Pierce Industrial.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, second by Brian. This is also a roll call vote, so let's, all those in favor, starting with Danielle.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6. Dan's got that.
Okay. You may recognize this one as you've seen the property recently, or fairly recently. But this is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from mining and grazing to a planned development commercial zone for the property generally located 2,000 feet east of the Fish Rock subdivision to allow for RV storage. So here's the site. You can see Fish Rock subdivision over here. and then the site over here in the M&G zone, mining and grazing zone, just outside the boundaries of the PDR. This is what you may recall seeing back, I think it was back in November. They brought the general plan to you to change the designation from low-density residential to commercial, and that was approved at that time. So now they're asking for a change in the zoning, which would take it from the, like I said, the mining and grazing to PD. They're asking to do that so that they can accommodate an RV storage facility, and that is what is before you here. This is a look at the site plan. They're proposing that all the RV storage be on the interior of the site, with the exception of this little bit over here on the northwest corner. The access, and I'll bring up the access here. You can kind of see it in the corner, but we'll look at it a little bit more in just a second. But all of the RV parking would be covered. I'll show you some pictures of what they're anticipating to do. Because they are not, because they're outside of that boundary of the PD, they are not required to have any landscaping around the perimeter. But they are proposing some landscaping coming up to the site, and from the road that will lead into the site. This is a look at what they're proposing. This is a site that has been developed that would be almost identical. So they'd have a 6-foot masonry wall that would surround the site, and then the metal awnings not to exceed 22 feet in height. And this is a look at the site itself. So it's kind of in a bowl, kind of out of sight. I've actually driven up there and looked at it, and it's kind of hidden from view quite a bit. So that it's been a gravel pit for some years, and now they want to take advantage of that and of the property, and think this will be a good use for it. So that is the request. Again, the Planning Commission heard this request and recommended approval to you.
We've kind of known this was coming, I think. Mm-hmm. So, any questions?
I think it's a really awesome repurposing of this space, and much better than having it. I think the original idea was to have this, over near SR 18, and I feel like this is just going to be like visually much more appealing. Seems like a good solution to me.
It's hard to even see that over there.
Yeah.
So,
I make a motion to approve the zoning, changing the zone of mining and grazing to PDC. Zone change for the property generally located 2,000 feet east of the Fish Rock subdivision to allow for RV storage.
Second.
motion by Brian and a second by Greg. This is also a roll call vote, so those in favor, starting with Brian.
Aye.
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 Nice. Very good. Thank you. Motion carries. Number 7.
Okay, excuse me. Number 7 is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a one-lot commercial subdivision called High Point Storage, size located approximately 910 west and 4700 north in the Ledges development. Again, the number of lots is 1. General plan is commercial. Applicant is Development Solutions Group. This is the one that Dan just presented on the zone change, is to give you some perspective of where it's located relative to their development that's going on. And then here's the lot. So they'll create this one lot here. They will be required to construct the road and dedicate it out to the site itself. So they'll have a dedicated public road right here to the site. The proposal is just to put in the center 32 feet of the pavement to get them out here. And then as development occurs in the future on either side, they'll finish the roads, pavement, curb, gutter, sidewalk, and so forth. But for now, they'll just put in the 32 feet to get them access out to here, and then they'll build obviously that little Colden knuckle or whatever you want to call it right there.
Perfect. Any questions? Ready for a motion?
Make a motion we approve the preliminary plat for High Point Storage, a one-lot commercial subdivision located approximately at 910 West and 4700 North.
Second.
Motion by Greg, second by Brian. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 8.
Okay, let's see. Okay, number 8, 9, and 10 are kind of tied together. Obviously, you'll have to make separate motions, but we'll just go through them really quickly. This was heard on December 3rd. It was tabled for additional information. So here's the Hillside item right there. So I'll just go over it really quickly. There's their layout of their subdivision. Let me see if I can get it to come down one more. This is their slope analysis. It indicates that right here on their table that with the layout of their subdivision, I thought they had it right there. There. With the layout of their subdivision, they will be able to meet the hillside requirements, staying within those ranges based on the slope percentages, and that's what the table shows here. But to do that, obviously, they've had each lot is designated with areas that can be disturbed, portions of the lot that cannot be disturbed, and so that'll have to be shown on the final plat and designated on the final plat. The green areas obviously are open space. They will have utilities. They're going to have to provide a water tank to be able to provide water service to their development, and it'll be specifically to their development. They will have their proposal now is to do a lift station, a sewer lift station, and pump their sewer out. However, the Sienna Canyon has requested the possibility of the city taking over their improvements, and Scott probably can elaborate to this, but they are doing an analysis of their system to see what improvements need to be made for the city to take that over, and then they'd work out agreement if that's possible. If that happens, then they would be able to, this would become a public sewer system, and they would be able to connect to it. If it doesn't, they'll put in a lift station and pump their sewer up to here, up the Hillrise Drive. They did do an analysis of that slope of the ability to trench adjacent to that slope, as was discussed before. There's a 75-foot setback against the ridge line where no trenching could take place, based on the analysis they did of how the waves travel through the soil to that slope. So there'd be an area of 75 feet, no trenching, and then between 75 and 150, it would be allowed, let me just make sure I get that right, would be a rock trencher would be allowed. Beyond that, then you could do a hammer or so forth, and that's indicated in that study. Also within that study, they do have 2 lots that fall within that area, that 75 feet. However, the soils report indicated they felt comfortable with these 2 lots right here developing as they are fill lots. There would be no excavation on those lots, but they'd have to each be treated on an individual basis when they come in for a building permit. We'd have to take a little more, we'd have to have actually like a pre-construction meeting on each lot prior to it developing, so those things can be discussed. The rest of the lots remain out of that area here, of that 75-foot ridgeline area. And then there were some other items in that report that requires monitoring on a continual basis as they excavate to make sure that they have a sound wave that goes through there, and they want that monitored to make sure that's not exceeded. Prior to starting work, because all equipment varies a little bit, they've requested that they go up there, do some trenching, do some monitoring to verify that equipment mirrors what their analysis was when they did it, and so forth, and then they'll adjust it if it doesn't. But 75 is the minimum right now. They also requested continual monitoring to make sure that those aren't exceeded, those waves, and so that'll have to be continually monitored by the geotechnical engineer to verify that that is being complied with. And then there were a couple other items that they'll have to comply with within that study. Did you have a question?
Yeah, when you say continual monitoring, what does that look like? Is that like daily? Is it weekly? Is it somebody's there on this job site? How does that work?
It'll depend on what kind of work is going on. My vision is if they're up there excavating in this area to trenching to put in some utilities, they'll have somebody on site monitoring those waves all during that. As they get further away, it may get less than that, may not be required, or I think it just depends on a day-to-day basis what the work is. But when they're trenching within these areas here adjacent to it, I expect someone there to monitor that to verify that that's not being exceeded. Yep. And so that was addressed. I'll let Scott talk about drainage since he did the lion's share of that review, and I just was a little cheerleader on the side, cheering him on. And so I'll let him address that.
Now we know what to get Wes. Pom-poms.
So I sent a memo to each of you today. Have you had a chance to look at that? And
Thank you. That was very good.
Very good, thank you.
there was basically 4 items that you asked us to take a closer look at. The first one being the agreement, an agreement between the development and Sienna Canyon to allow them to discharge into their drainage into a private storm drain system. They do not have that agreement yet. However, they do have an alternative solution which works. And basically what they're looking at doing is, instead of a retention basin that slows the flow down before they discharge it into the adjacent property, they would create a retention basin which is sized to hold the full 100-year storm event. And then after the storm event is passed, they've got 2 alternatives, one being pumping it to a different location to discharge it. Another one being if they can work with the Sienna Canyon Homeowners Association to discharge a small flow through their storm drain system. So we've looked at all the options, and I feel like they do have an option that works. Either if they can't, the preferred alternative would be to work with the Sienna Canyon and discharge their drainage into the Sienna Canyon system. If not, they do have an option that works. The second item is, if you recall, there's one of the city's drainage easements or right-of-ways that has been encroached on by an adjacent property owner, and their plan is to they'll have a detention basin there to slow the flow down, and they'll discharge into the natural drainage which has been encroached on. So that's really a city problem. We've got to work with the homeowner and try to get that drainage way reestablished. The developer has offered and is planning on, if we cannot resolve that in a timely manner, they've agreed to pipe the discharge from that detention basin over to another detention basin. They've sized that other detention basin to accommodate the both detention basins and then discharge it in one location. And then once this encroachment does get resolved, we'll either be able to abandon that pipeline or use it as a backup. So they have addressed that concern. Third concern is the overall drainage study. We've spent a lot of time with them reviewing the study. We've found some discrepancies and errors that they've addressed. They've adequately addressed. In the end, they've done a great job of conducting a drainage study. They're using the best engineering practices, and in my mind, they've done a great job of addressing the drainage. Overall, this development is going to either retain or detain stormwater. The post-development discharge is going to be significantly less than what currently exists now.
I think that's an important point.
And in some cases, it's dramatic. For example, the one drainage basin that drains into Sienna Canyon right now, the study shows that they would receive about a 43 CFS flow, 43 cubic feet per second, into Sienna Canyon. If they go with the detention basin, they would be allowed to discharge 8. So you're reducing it from 43 to 8. They're proposing, if they can't work with Sienna Canyon, a retention basin, which basically there would be no discharge. So, and there's 4 points that they're discharging, so they'll have 4 either detention or retention basins, and like I said, it significantly decreases the flow that is currently there now. As far as the sewer study, as Wes mentioned, preferred alternative is to drain the sewer down through Sienna Canyon. It is a private system right now. Sienna Canyon has approached the city and requested that we take over that private system and make it a public system. So our wastewater collections crews have been out all week cleaning and videoing to inspect the existing private system. Within the next few days, we should have an idea of what it would take to bring their system up to current standards, and then at that point we would take it over. The city would take it over as part of our city sewer system. So far, we haven't found any major discrepancies, just some minor issues that need to be addressed. So I feel confident that will happen, that we will eventually take that system over and they'll be able to tie right into it. If for some reason Sienna Canyon decides they don't want the city to take it over, the developer does have an alternative solution, which is to pump the sewage from that low point. So just a few homes that would be contributing to that, pump it up to the gravity system. And the fourth item was, as I think it's the Hilltop Road, that steep road that goes up to Webb Hill. There was some concern about the drainage coming off that, if the Fort Pierce Road would handle that drainage. They've modeled it a couple of different times and are fairly confident with their model that the drainage will be handled within the roadway. They've even taken the effort to go up there and validate their model by opening a fire hydrant and letting the water flow down just to see how the drainage handles it. Now, it wasn't the full flow that we would expect from a 100-year event, but it was enough of a flow that they could validate their model to show that, yes, we're confident that the gutter system and the street will handle the flow coming off from Hilltop Drive. Are there any other questions or concerns that you might have that we could address?
Thank you, Scott. That was great. I really appreciated all that information from you.
I think Sienna Canyon wins all the way around, but yeah, I don't think we can guarantee anything anymore. But it sounds like we've got a good plan in place.
Yeah, I think the items that we've asked them to, that you've asked us to look at, I feel like they've adequately addressed, and
Perfect.
if
They've
they
done
couldn't
great.
address it right on, they've got alternative solutions that work.
Perfect.
And
They've done
we've
great.
spent, Wes and I have spent, we've met with them 4 or 5 times over the last month, and we've had some good conversation, and we feel confident that they've addressed the concerns that you've raised.
Let me just add one thing. One of the concerns that Scott and I had was if it doesn't work and they can't go into Sienna Canyon, obviously they'd have to pump it up here. And the concern was who keeps track of that pump and does it stay in good condition. With this development, because they have these private detention basins and so forth, they would be required to do what's called a long-term stormwater maintenance agreement with the city. And within that agreement, we would stipulate that these need to be monitored on a yearly basis, the detention basins to make sure they're clean, and also that the pump is active and can function, so that in the event a storm comes of such magnitude, that we're pretty confident that that pump would work instead of just filling up and causing problems somewhere else. So just so you're aware, there would be an agreement in place that that stuff is monitored and maintained.
For the city to monitor it?
No.
No.
The HOA would have to provide that, a monitoring, and then submit a report to the city that says, yes, we've done this, we've monitored it, cleaned the basins, and the pump works, and that would have to be done on a yearly basis.
Perfect.
And again, that retention basin is designed to hold the full 100-year storm event flow, fill it right up. And typically a retention basin, you just let it percolate in the ground or evaporate. We felt like it would be better rather than let it percolate in the ground and then weeks later have it pop up in somebody's home somewhere else. We felt like it would be better to pump it or discharge it at a slow rate and try to empty it within a day or two. So it is critical that they maintain their pumping system, but on the same hand, the storm event is over, and if they turn the pump on and it has failed, it's not the end of the world. They got a few days they could go in and fix the pump and discharge it after that. So it's not
Right.
it's not that critical that it's discharged immediately after the storm.
I have one question. I don't know a lot about these retention and detention basins, Scott. So does there have to be some sort of enclosure around them? Are they all maintained on the private property?
Yeah, it'll be an open space, and a lot of times you'll see detention basins, and you won't even know it's a detention basin.
Okay.
Basin looks like a park.
Right.
I suspect that on this larger one, they would want to dress it up so they could have some use of it when it's empty.
Okay.
And then during a storm event, it would fill up, and if they've got some sod there, it would
Okay.
inundate the sod, and then once they pumped it out and cleaned up, they could reuse it again.
So that answers my second question. So these only fill up really during storm events.
Yes.
So I was curious if it had any sort of negative effect on the hilltop ecosystem, but it sounds like it would not because it's not generally just sitting full.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pump it out fairly soon after the storm event.
Okay.
Yeah, no fishing, Danny. No fishing.
Maybe crawdads.
Are there any other questions for staff? Or do we have any questions for the applicant? I think some of them are here if you have questions for them. I don't know. We've been over this a few times,
Yeah.
and I think we've asked try to make sure we're got everything done here, so if there's questions. And remember, we're talking about the Hillside right now,
Yeah.
Hillside development permit at this point.
I have a little bit of discussion whenever you're ready to entertain that.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. I just think it's worth mentioning, we got a lot of letters from the public. As we know, this hilltop is beloved. It's an interior, city park, and I think it's worth mentioning the history again so that people understand. I know a few of the letters said that they were under, the understanding that the city is currently selling this piece of property, that it was sitting as open space and that the city is selling it. So that is not accurate. In 1998, as I understand it, the city actually went to great effort to preserve this hilltop and to maintain it as an open space. And this is the remaining final privately owned piece of that negotiation. So in a sense, we've all been enjoying a piece of private property for a long time. And I mean, I'm one of those people. I ride my bike and run up there all the time, and I love this piece of property. But I think there's a lot of emotion attached to this with the neighborhood and the neighbors because everybody's been allowed to use this for a long time, this particularly, piece that's still privately owned. And I just want to say, as far as the negative impact, I feel like the developers, along with our planning department, have gone to great lengths to make sure that this is a low impact development, that it's not a private road, that it remains a public road. I know that was some of the concern. Will we still be able to get up to the top? The trail will actually be paved so that you can access Kentucky Lucky up there. Kentucky Lucky will be slightly rerouted, but there is a portion of it that's currently on the private property, but it will still, be pretty similar to what it is now and still be usable. And I just think it's important for the public to know that that is the plan and that we plan for this to remain an open space forever. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else to that. I feel like it's also, as Jimmy pointed out, really important to know that the drainage actually will end up better than it has been, because we've had actually a lot of drainage problems from this hilltop when we have major storm events. So this should help to better that for the residents below. And I guess my only last question, Cameron mentioned that a traffic study had already been done. We know that that space, there was a lot of concern about the additional traffic, but I'm sure we'll monitor that. Just, if the traffic does become an issue, maybe eventually there needs to be a three-way stop down there at the bottom or something like that if there's a problem. But I think that's probably all I have to add to it.
Thank you, Danielle. I was hoping you'd mention the bike trail and how it's going to be enhanced, and there's going to be a trail up through there. So
Yeah.
appreciate that. You have any comments?
Sure, I could just add to this. Just to add to that agreement that happened in 1998, what I think we've ended up with here is a best case scenario. Before 1998, the entire hill was privately owned, could have been developed, and this is the agreement that was made at that time, making it so we can retain a lot of the hill as an open space for the community. And I agree that the developer and the planning, the city and the planning have done a very good job of lessening the impact on it and creating a great development. So I think we've ended up with a very good scenario.
Very good. Thank you, Greg. Okay. Any other discussion or questions or concerns? This is item number 8. It is the Hillside Development Permit. So I'm ready for a motion if you're ready.
I think we'll just have you do 8, 9, and 10, make motions on all of those since they're
Without
all,
any further.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take item number 8. Are we all clear on that? So was there someone that needed to make a comment? I know some of the applicants are here, but unless you really want to say something. Okay. Okay. Item number 8, the Hillside. Let's just go in order and we'll go from there. If there's further discussion on one of the 9 or 10, just let's have that. But go ahead with item number 8, the Hillside permit.
Jimmy, I will make a motion that we approve the Hillside Development Permit to allow development of a residential subdivision called Summit Estates, generally located south of the intersection at Hillside Drive and Fort Pierce Drive.
Second.
We have a motion by Danielle, a second by Greg. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Any concerns on the motion? I see an intense discussion down there, but hopefully it's non-related. Are we okay with that motion? Were you discussing that? Just on that? Okay, all right, good. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. This does not require a roll call, does it? No? Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, on the motion for the PD,
Uh-huh.
we do need to state what the changes are to the PD on the record from the original PD. So I don't know if John or
Do-
Dan. We're looking it up.
So can one of you, so do we need to have one of you explain those to us to make sure we know what they specifically are? Okay. Can we move to 10, or we have to wait in order?
Yeah, the preliminary thought would be based on the changes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead. No.
Okay, so they're asking for 42. I'm trying to remember if that changed to 41 or is it 42? 42, okay. So 42 units. Originally, there were, let's see, between Sienna Ridge, which was 13 lots, Sienna Canyon, 55, 68 units have been platted out of 118 total units allowed. Leaves a total of 50. They're asking for 42. So from 50 allowed under the development agreement currently that have not been built to 42.
I believe that's what we need to have on the record. And also, that reinforces the point made by Councilmember Larkin that actually this is probably a better resolution than the original approved PD because there are fewer units.
For sure. So what we're doing here is we're amending the PD, and that's the actual amendment. So that needs to be stated in the motion.
To reduce it to 42
Perfect.
single-family lots.
Clear as mud? Okay, I'll go ahead and take a motion on item number 9.
I'll make a motion that we, that we approve an ordinance for a zone change, amending the Summit Estates, the PD, associated with Webb Hill to the west of Siena Canyon development on approximately 70.83 acres, generally located on Hillside Drive, south of Summit Ridge Drive, from the original 50 lots, 50 single-family lots to 42 single-family lots.
Is that good, Sean?
That make it?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Greg, a second by Brian. This is a roll call vote. So those in favor, starting with Greg?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Okay, number 10. Any changes to number 10 that we need to be aware of, or this is consideration of the preliminary plat for the 42 lots residential subdivision? Anything else we need to change on that? We're all good.
No, Mayor, I believe that we've addressed all of the issues now, so I don't believe that there are any other conditions we would need to place on this preliminary plat. Is that correct?
Perfect. Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Summit Estates 42-lot residential subdivision located on Webb Hill.
Second.
We have a motion by Danielle, a second by Greg. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Whoa, what happened here? End of the page? What else do we have? Nothing? Nothing, Adam? Nothing else?
We do need a closed session this
Okay. Wow. See that? That's how it goes when I run the meeting. Just like that. Thank you. You're welcome.
I hope we can get that closed session to at least 3 hours. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm getting used to these 5 or 6 hour ones.
I know.
Yes, so-
I need to be here long enough for my blood sugar to just totally go in the
It's all up
toilet.
to you.
So,
He just jinxed us.
so the bad news in all this is we do have need of a closed session to discuss litigation. So we do need to make a motion to adjourn from city council into closed session for the purposes of litigation.
So moved.
Could we also add a purchase of property?
And the purchase of property.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion by Danielle, a second by Brian. Is there any discussion to the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, with that, thank you for coming, and we'll go into closed session.